In this session, we're going to learn about naming your concepts and content to increase their value. How to create names that are valuable and unforgettable. Valuable and unforgettable. So, naming something increases its value. Consciously naming your concepts and content increases their perceived value massively. Without a name, each of your concepts or pieces of content sounds like just another idea. A good name automatically increases value 10x to 100x in my experience. Same content, same idea, same technique. By giving it a good name, you automatically increase the value of that technique or idea or even product by 10 to 100 times. Okay, so make sure you write that down and circle it. This is one that's even worth writing on a Post-it note and putting it on your computer screen, putting it on your desk so that you see it every day. Because this insight right here can vault you way up when it comes to creating value, creating products, and also in your marketing later on as well. So what do I mean when I say that naming increases value, and without a name, each of your concepts or pieces of content sounds like just another idea? Well, if you go to the bestseller lists from the past several years, at the top of the lists, when you see diet books making a big splash, you don't see titles like A Good Diet That Works, okay, or The Healthy Human Diet. You see titles like The Atkins Diet or The South Beach Diet. And you see these names, and then all of a sudden you start hearing them everywhere, and it becomes a name for the entire category. Okay, so Atkins, for example. Now, anytime you're eating something with protein, it's essentially called Atkins, right? Because he came along and he named the category, and he named his diet. Now, there are many, many more examples of this. But if you look at the top brands in the world and the top products in the world, you'll notice that they have distinctive names. Okay, everything from the Zoom unit that I'm using right now to do my recording, to my iPhone that I have sitting next to me here, to the MacBook Pro that I'm using to make this video. Okay, all of them have names that were very carefully chosen, very intentionally chosen, to increase value. And you, with your kind of commodity being your information and your advice and your coaching, right, you want to do everything you possibly can to increase the perceived value, right? Because perceived value is value to customers. And when you're selling a product that has a very generic or boring sounding name, you have to talk your customer into paying you more money for it, rather than having a product that has a name that just sounds like it's really valuable. And if you have a concept that you're trying to teach your customer or a technique, and you say, here, I'm going to show you how to lose a couple of pounds here around your middle so that you look a little slimmer, it just sounds like you're about to give me a diet tip. Okay? But when you say, I'm going to show you the 7-day fat burn diet, all of a sudden, right, this takes on a whole new aura of value and mystery. Well, I want to know what the 7-day fat burn diet is. That sounds like something I need to get on immediately. Okay, so concept is that naming increases value, and you want to put time into doing this. In fact, some of the longest projects that I've ever done have been names. Sometimes I think about names for days or weeks, sometimes even months or years. There are some things that I've named that have taken me years to name because I just keep thinking about it, and eventually I come up with a really great name. And when you can get leverage like 10x to 100x on the value of your information, whether that be charging more for your coaching and your advice, charging more for your product, charging more for your membership, it really, really becomes worth it. Let's talk about the meaning of meaning. Meaning is the connection of ideas to things in the real world, and the connection of ideas to each other. Meaning starts with a category or a context, and taking control of meaning is very, very high leverage. Okay, taking control of meaning is very, very high leverage. So I said meaning is the connection of ideas to things in the real world. So for example, I have a bottle of water sitting on the desk here next to me. The meaning of the words bottle of water, the meaning is the bottle that's here. Okay, so this is the connection of the idea or the words that I have in my head to this thing in the real world. The other way that we make meaning is that we connect ideas to each other. So we see a person do something that we think is unethical, and we connect them in our mind with that behavior that they did. Okay, these two ideas, the idea we have of them and then the idea of the behavior, and then we make meaning from it. We interpret it and we say, that's a bad person. So meaning typically starts with a category or a context that we're inside of. For instance, if let's say you have a child who is screaming very loud. Okay, what does it mean? Well, it means different things if they're in different contexts. If they're at the dinner table and everyone else is calm and having a nice time and your child is screaming, it means one thing. If your child has fallen down in a well and they're trying to get help and they're screaming, it means something very different. Okay? Same screaming, different context, totally different meaning. When you start to study how our minds make meaning, in other words, how they label things in the real world, and then how they connect ideas to each other, and then name those connections, especially when it comes to things like good and bad, and I like it and I don't like it, and I want to be around that and I don't want to be around it, and that's something I'll pay a lot of money for, and that's something I won't pay a lot of money for. You can see how this can be very important to helping you sell your coaching advice and information products for a lot more money. The reality is that humans automatically make meaning. Okay? Humans automatically make meaning. We learn by association, and when things happen together, we assume that one of them caused the other one. We assume that one of them means the other one. We get all these things mixed up in our minds because that's the way our mind works. It just connects things automatically. Since your prospective customers are going to be connecting things automatically when they see your marketing, when they interact with you, when they see your products, when they learn your techniques, you might as well take control of this meaning process, as we mentioned here, just by naming something, just by attaching a good name to your technique or to your product. You instantly increase the perceived value dramatically because now there's something different attached to it. Instead of just thinking about the technique as, oh, here's a technique to, eat a little bit less and lose some fat, when we attach a name to it, like the 7-day fat loss diet, all of a sudden now it's seen in relationship to the result that it delivers, right? Or it's seen in relationship to the brand that it's associated with, and it's not just kind of hanging out there in midair like a random piece of advice. If you're a super geek, you definitely want to start paying attention to meaning, study it online, look up the word meaning, start noticing how you automatically make meaning and how other people do. Become interested in it. It's a really interesting topic, seeing how people learn and then creating information that's easy to learn and also perceived as very high value. So next, it's important to create names that are impossible to ignore or forget, okay, not catchy. What we're going for here is memorability, okay, names that are impossible to ignore or forget. And we're not looking for cute, funny, catchy phrases. That's not what we're after. When naming your concepts, when naming your content, when naming your products, It's important to avoid cute or catchy names. Remember, people are serious about what they want. Instead of cute or catchy, create names that grab attention, promise a benefit, trigger powerful feelings, and stick in the mind. Okay, good. So what we're trying to do here is not make something that makes us smile or makes the customer smile. A lot of people will name their product, or they'll name their business, or they'll name their idea something cute. Okay, so maybe their last name is Bear, B-E-A-R, and they'll name their business Bare Necessities, and they'll say, "Get it? Bare Necessities." Right? And of course, everyone gets it. But when you're naming your business or naming your product, people don't want to laugh. I think it was David Ogilvy that said, people don't want to laugh when spending money. Okay? They don't want to be laughing while they're spending their money. Money is a serious thing, and it's taken them, a lot of time, effort, energy, and work to get it. So we want to create names that are memorable, not names that are cute, right, or that are funny. And we'll talk about how to create them here in a moment. Now, something you hear me talk about a lot, and you'll hear me talking about a lot more as we move into this program, is power words and non-power words. Okay, so power words are distinctive, emotional, and result-oriented. Non-power words are logical, common, and uninteresting. Okay, logical, common, and uninteresting. So a power word triggers emotion inside of you. Okay? It's a distinctive word that stands out and grabs attention, and it's result-oriented. In other words, it either names or it suggests something that's very powerful that you either want to get or you want to get away from. Whereas non-power words are logical words. They're kind of common, uninteresting. Oftentimes they're abstract or kind of theoretical. They're just boring words that no one wants to pay attention to. And as my friend Joe Polish likes to point out, if you take a $1 bill and a $100 bill, or similar in your own currency, if you're in a country other than America, you put them next to each other and you ask, what's the difference? Right? They're printed on the same paper, they got the same ink, they look very similar, and the difference is the message. Same thing with words. Okay? Well, between the two bills, the one, you can trade for $1 and the other you can trade for $100 worth of stuff. Well, some words are $1 words and some words are $100 words. And speaking of money, let's talk about, a couple of comparisons here. Let's compare some non-power words to power words. So a non-power word would be currency, kind of a normal, boring word. A power word is cash. A non-power word is the word mating. A power word that grabs attention is sex. A non-power word is expiration. A power word, death. A non-power word or phrase, lose weight. The power word version is burn fat. The non-power word is promptly. Sounds very proper and boring. A power word is instantly. What you might do here is just close your eyes for a second. Tune into your body. Notice how your feet feel and your hands and your head. Feel your chest. Now go a little deeper and feel if you can feel the emotional state that you're in right now. Okay, eyes closed. Take a deep breath. Can you feel your emotional state? Can you feel what mood you're in right now? Okay, good. Now I want you to stay tuned to your emotional state and notice what happens when I say these words. Okay, I'm going to say the first set. Currency, mating, expiration, lose weight, promptly. Okay, did you notice any kind of emotional shift? What was it? How long did it last? Did it move through your body? Okay, now listen to this set of words. Tune into your emotions. Cash, sex, death, burn fat, instantly. I can actually feel as I'm saying the words, and I mean, you know, I've taught this stuff for years, I can actually feel like a rising sense of emotion and alertness coming up through my chest, up my back, and up through the top of my head when I say the words cash, sex, death, burn fat, and instantly. It's a part of me that's like, how do I get cash, sex, and burn fat instantly, and how do I avoid death instantly? I want to know that immediately. It's prelingual. It's down in the animal part of me. And when you use words that are anchored to or associated with important concepts in people's lives, it grabs their attention. It triggers emotion. Okay? So we talked about the idea of, you know, power words being emotional, distinctive, and result-oriented. Okay? So they trigger emotion, they really stand out, and they're oriented toward a result. Non-power words are more logical, analytic, they're common words, they're uninteresting. So just look right here. Okay? So think about the word currency. It's kind of a common, logical, descriptive word, boring. And think about the word cash. It triggers an emotion. In most people it triggers, I want more. It's a distinctive word. It stands out. And it's result-oriented. We all know what cash is. Cash means there's money in my hand. Currency, boy, that's kind of abstract. Are we talking about it like the kind that flows through wires on the internet or wirelessly? Are we talking about, you know, the currency of a nation? Yeah, right? Notice the word mating. Again, an analytical word, not something that is going to strike a lot of emotion into the average person. Whereas the word sex, well, that's the one that's always mentioned with almost a little bit of hushed tone to it. Like you don't want to say it too loud because if you're doing something sexual, it's probably illicit. You kind of have to hide that a little bit. So even saying the word, right, really draws attention. And again, down the list here, death, burn fat, instantly. These are very, very powerful, powerful words. So remember, focus on results. As we've learned in the other parts of the training, keep the focus on the result, not the process or the theory. The only thing your customer is thinking is, how do I get the result I want? So promise a powerful result in your name, or at a minimum, in your subtitle. We definitely want to go for results, outcomes. Okay? We don't want to be talking about a bunch of abstract theory or steps. It's also important to think in terms of categories and memory or memorability. So here's a little strategy for you when creating a name for your product. Start with emotional power words that relate to the outcomes your customers want. So we start with high emotion power words that are directly connected to a result. Okay, again, similar to words like cash, sex, death, burn fat, instantly. Results, outcomes. Next, once you've identified your power words, see if you can create a category for your concept or your product that you can be first into. Okay, a category that you can be the first one in. When you're creating a category, by the way, you're really using advanced techniques for being memorable. Because we humans, we can only remember 7, 8, 9 different category members in our brain. We've got what I call brain buckets, where we carry around these different ideas that we get for different categories, and we remember, 6, 7, 8, 9 items in each one. And if I asked you to name anything from brands of car to names of airlines to computer manufacturers, and you started naming them, you'd get up to 5, 6, 7, and then you'd start probably having to, really do some thinking. And once you got up near 8, 9, 10, you'd probably run out. Right? That's because the mind, once it gets a category, it fills it up with names and words and ideas, and then when it gets to about 7 or 8 or 9, it stops, and it goes on. So if you want to be really memorable, you want to create your own category that you can be first in. One of the examples that I use the most, of course, is my first online information business. The category is dating advice for men. And it started with the name Double Your Dating, the book. And then finally, add alliteration or rhyme for memorability. So not only do we want the name to be distinctive and to increase the perceived value, but we want it to be memorable. We want it to stick in the mind. And as I learned from Roy Williams, the guy that wrote The Wizard of Ads, we have these buffers in our senses, meaning that when we take in sensory data from touch, from sight, from smell, taste, and hearing, it comes in and it actually bounces around in our mind for a little while before we either decide to kind of ditch it or remember it. And specifically, the thing that I actually learned from Roy Williams is about the auditory function. The auditory function. And we have a system that's called the phonological loop. And when you hear something, it bounces around in your electronic memory in your brain for about 5 seconds or so. So you can remember everything that happened in the last 5 seconds, whether or not you were thinking about it. And this is why if you ask a child, if you say, you're not listening to me, and they say, yes, I am, and then they repeat back the last sentence that you just said, right? You're frustrated, and you kind of still know they weren't listening, but somehow they were able to repeat it back. That's the phonological loop. Right? The sound bounces around for about 5 seconds, and then you either remember it or you get rid of it. Most things we get rid of because they're not distinctive or interesting. If you add alliteration and rhyme, it becomes much more memorable. There's something about repetitive sounds that are very interesting to the human brain. Repetitive anything, actually, but repetitive sounds particularly fascinating. And one of the reasons why we're focusing so much on sound, by the way, is because the human mind remembers names by sound, not by sight. Okay, it remembers names by sound, not by sight. That's the way we remember stuff, so we want to focus on how names sound, not how they look. Right? And a lot of folks will put way too much attention into trying to get a name that looks cool, or letters that look cool, that have a lot of X's and Q's and Z's and other strange letters, but they don't realize that the sounds that they make are not memorable because there's no alliteration or rhyme. So alliteration is the repetition of the first letter. So Coca-Cola, the C's, Coca-Cola, that's alliteration. Bed, Bath, and Beyond, that's alliteration. And rhyme, of course, is the end of the word rhyming. So Coca-Cola is a particularly powerful name because it has both alliteration and rhyme. Okay, so the 3 C's, Coca-Cola, and the U's, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola. Very memorable. You hear it, it kind of keeps bouncing around. It's one of the reasons why great songs are so memorable, is because they have alliteration or rhyme, and they also have melody. And I've kind of made my own personal analysis of hit songs and the hooks and the choruses and so forth. And there are a lot of things that the big hit songs have in common, and a lot of it has to do with alliteration, rhyme, and rhythm. If you really want to get advanced, you can add rhythm to this. You can keep going, to really make powerful names. So to show you, here are some of my business names that I've created that I think are pretty interesting, and they use the different principles that I've taught you here in different amounts. So the first is Double Your Dating. Double Your Dating was the first book that I wrote, and it actually took me, I think I worked on that name for about a month to come up with Double Your Dating. It was originally, when I first launched it, it was called, how to get dates with attractive women or something kind of boring like that, because I hadn't come up with a good name. And then I came up with Double Your Dating. Why is it powerful? Well, it's very specific. Double your dating. It's also nice because it has the alliteration, the D and the D, double your dating. It also has a nice rhythm to it. Okay, double your dating. Has the word your in it, so it applies directly to the other person. Yes, I realize that if you have 0 dates, doubling your dating doesn't get you much. But most people have at least some experience with dates, and doubling sounds realistic. It sounds like something that they could achieve. I could double my dating. Another name here that I'll just mention here was the pen name that I used for writing all my dating advice, and that was David D'Angelo. And it's not a coincidence that David D'Angelo and Double Your Dating, right, all are alliterative. All the D's. David D'Angelo, Double Your Dating. They also have a nice rhythm to them. Double Your Dating, right? Da-da-da-da-da. And David D'Angelo, da-da-da-da-da-da. David D'Angelo, Double Your Dating. Try to forget that. Try to forget the names David D'Angelo and Double Your Dating, now that you know this. The next one that I came up with that I liked, that it's not the best name I've ever come up with, but I really like it, and it's the KISS test. The KISS test. Okay, now, it doesn't have the alliteration in the rhyme, but it's a nice name because on my website, if you visit Double Your Dating, one of the things that I offer is the KISS test, how to tell if a woman is ready to be kissed. And this is result-oriented, right? When men see this, they say, there's a test? How come nobody told me about this? I need to know what that is immediately. And so they opt into our newsletter, and they get on my list. Okay, the KISS test. Okay, I don't just say, here, let me show you how to tell if a woman wants to be kissed. Okay, now that's valuable, but when I say, I'm going to show you the KISS test, how to tell if a woman's ready to be kissed, dramatically increases the value. There's a test? I didn't know that. Next, mental money maps. And this is a name for some of the content I created for my Self-Made Wealth program. If you're not familiar with it, I did a very high-end 90-day training program that is we offer as a home study course now, and we teach you about money and wealth and value and assets and so forth. And it's one of our best programs. And I have a concept I named in there called mental money maps. And it's the ways that you think about money and your relationship to money. Some of us got bad programming and we need to get new programming. So I call all the good programming that I give you mental money maps. Nice alliteration. Another one is wake up productive. Okay, wake up productive. This one's a little more complex, right? It's not perfect in terms of the alliteration and the rhyme, but there is something to it when you listen, right? Wake up productive. So there's the repetition of several sounds in there, like the K and the C, like wake up productive, wake up productive. It's got a nice rhythm, wake up productive. And in the surveys that I did, a lot of people mentioned that they were having problems with productivity. They wanted to learn how to be more productive. And I realized that what people really want is they don't want to use planners and they don't want to have to, do a bunch of weird time management techniques and manage a bunch of checklists and things. They just want to wake up and be productive. They want to wake up productive. And so the promise of this course is go through this course. It's 90 days long. And if you do everything in the course and you use it, in 90 days you'll be twice as productive. Right? Your productivity will have doubled. You will literally wake up and automatically be productive because you're learning habits. The next one is the Self-Made Wealth name itself. So Self-Made Wealth. You hear the rhyme there between self and wealth. Slightly forced, but it's nice. And it's got a nice little, kind of three-part rhythm. Self-Made Wealth. Sounds very strong, very certain. Self-made wealth. And it's also very descriptive. Okay, so it's self-made wealth. Wealth that you make yourself. Meaning you are the one that's going to do it. And I'm going to teach you how. And it goes along nicely, with kind of personal development and self-help. And in a way, it almost even sounds like the word self-help, self-made wealth. Promises a really nice benefit, self-made wealth. Learn these techniques and use them, and you can create wealth. Okay, good. So, just to review, naming dramatically increases the value of something. Okay, when you name a concept or a technique or a product or business, you increase the perceived value. And if you give it a good name, it can be by 10 to 100 times. You want to focus on meaning, how people connect words to things in the real world and ideas to each other, and taking control of this, very high leverage. That's what we're doing with a name. We want to create names that are impossible to ignore or forget, not cute. Okay, so we want to use things like alliteration and rhyme and rhythm and power words. We want to use power words that promise distinctive emotional results. Okay, we don't want to use boring, normal-sounding words. Right? We want to stick with those power words. We want to keep it focused on the outcome, the thing that the person wants, like double your dating. Okay, they want dating. Self-made wealth, they want wealth. And that's why we focus on using these power words that promise a result. And we want to create new categories we can be first into in the mind, so that when we name our products and services, they really stick, because we were the one that created the category.